Welcome to another episode of The Walk. My name's Gareth, I'm joined by my mate Phil.
Morning.
And today we're in the Derbyshire village of Cromford. In 1771, Sir Richard Arkwright built the Cromford Mills. They were the first water-powered mills on the planet, which led to this tiny little village being known as the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have a look around the mill complex, more importantly focusing on what, Phil?
The water in and the water out, and the ingenious invention that he made to get this running so well.
Exactly that. And
We've had enough of us already.
we've got some geese. Okay, so usual drill, I'll get Google Maps up. What we're doing now, we're walking up towards something called North Street, which was a street that Arkwright built for his workers. From there, we're going to basically trace it all the way down, looking at various different remains until we eventually end at the mill complex itself. And then from there, we'll have a little look at the canal, and then we'll finish up where Richard Arkwright lays in rest. So here's North Street. This is where we're starting our little explore. Now this was built by Richard Arkwright 5 years later after the mill in 1776. Now you've said something interesting, because I thought these were houses for the workers, but you're saying the top floor that had people working in there, and it's one continuous floor.
Yeah, the top floor, if you looked, it looks quite different. Look, it's got thinner windows, it's very different. And I believe that the workers worked here and just dipped upstairs to work. And that top floor is a long continuous floor all the way to the bottom from the machines.
Got ya.
It's an inventive thing to do.
Okay, so we're going to walk down now and basically try and source all these different water sources that powered the mills. Now, the other side of here is a school that was built by Arkwright, but I'm not going to film it because it's full of kids. But you'll notice as we go through Cromford that the buildings kind of look very similar, and that's because they were built at the same time, because basically this was a tiny place, almost like a non-existent little lead mining place, that suddenly Arkwright made into an enormous hive of industry. He housed his workers, he built a pub, he built a school, he built a church, he built the lot. So there you go, there's the back of those houses. That's North Street. They've just look, they've got no windows at the back on the top floor, look. Okay, so we're gonna make our way down. Now what's interesting is Phil was actually saying to me earlier that what I thought was Cromford and what is now Cromford was a place called Scarthin.
Yeah, Scarthin, that's why you've got a Scarthin Rock, you've got a Scarthin bookshop, and the Scarthin was a very old throughway before Jelly improved the roads around there. That was the original road going through, and they're all old mining and mill workers' cottages along that section now.
So when Phil's just said the Jelly, what he means by that is there's a road called the Via Jelly. Now if you've ever watched the channel before, you might have seen the Good Luck Mine episode and a couple of other episodes where we've actually clambered into lead mines on that Via Jelly. Anyone local will know what jelly means, but I'm just thinking if you're watching this from nowhere around here, you're thinking, jelly? Well, that's a little maze we're walking around here in between houses. Now this, as I understand it, is called the Bear Pit, which sounds quite intriguing, but actually it looks exactly like a bear pit. Yeah, exactly that, yeah. So where's this water coming from? Is this just basically, rolling off the hills essentially?
I'll do my best to try and explain it. If we come round here and look at this first.
Okay. I'm going to have to concentrate a lot here, folks, I reckon. Right.
So that on the left is the Cromford Tuck, and it was driven in the 1600s.
Wow.
To drain the mines, as you know, before the mechanical power came into force, had to find another way of getting all the water out, and this was a suck that would clear out the mines all around Wakesworth. And was it there the other week, remember?
Yeah.
Now, maybe that one ended up with the water.
With a rhinoceros in it, that one, yeah.
So this is the main drag of the Cromford Suck. So Arkwright came in, built this bear pit, and I explained what these are. That's a continuation of the stuff going down to the deer and to the mills, etc, etc.
Yeah.
Now if you look at that gadget there,
yeah,
he came in and built a wheel or a sluice gate.
Sluice gate, yeah. I mean, it looks like a torture device if I'm honest, but yeah, sluice gate.
To increase the level of the water, so it'd rise and it'd overflow thinking to the one there that's been blocked off. And the reason he did that, he wanted to make sure that the mill pond across the road, Scarthin Pond, always had enough water in it for him to run his mills. So basically when he did it, it's an ingenious idea, but it had to go to court because the miners opposed it, because they thought that the floods in the lead mines back up there would be at risk from flooding if he's sort of damming this water.
Yeah, if he's backing it up, basically, yeah.
So the reason water's flowing out of that, I think it's a backflow out of the Scarthin Pond across the road. So the levels are quite high, so it's just coming back, which might, I'm not sure why they blocked that one up actually. But I'm not sure why there's two gates there. I'm pretty sure it's just happens to be like that. There could be a reason, but trying to source the water supplies from here down to the mill is complex stuff.
So what we'll do now, I'll apologise in advance for the sound of the cars. It's quite a busy road this. We're going to come across the road and we're going to have a look at that Scarthin Pond and see where that water went in.
Yep.
Now Phil's shown me like basically a little diagram already. It's confusing. So there you go, look, via jelly. That's what Phil was talking about when he's mentioning jelly. That pub, the Greyhound, Arkwright built that as well. Mate, there's so much history. These are all so old, aren't they? Okay, so here's the pond. If you've ever driven around here, you may have seen this before. In the distance there as well, that was Arkwright's as well, and you can see there's a mill wheel still there, which is awesome. A couple of ducks. Now, I think you were right then, Phil, about basically that flow back there being as a result of this being too high.
Yeah, I think so. Judging by the gush of water that I can hear there, the levels have gone high enough for it to go back into the stuff. So it was pinching water, but it looks like it also been quite generous, making sure water went back that it didn't need,
Yeah. Lorry's done us there. So if you look on the other side, you've got Scarthin Books. There's a clue. And then we've got two churches. Phil's just spotted this. Well, basically you've got a church there, which I guess would have been the original one for the people that lived in Scarthin. And then when Cromford came along, they built another one. And you might notice it's a Methodist. The reason that's relevant, to me at least, is when me and Phil travel around the country going to these places of lead mines and coal mines and mills and whatever, they've all got churches and they're always Methodist every time. And so I asked the question, I think after a walk in Crich, where I was saying, what is the reason behind it always being Methodist? Is it basically because Methodism is basically a sort of more chilled out version of Christianity? So essentially, you want God on your side if you're working in one of these places because it's a tough gig, but you also want to be able to have a few bevies and, not worship too much basically. And I'm pretty sure that's the reason. Okay, so that's the new improved road. That goes up through the Via Jelly. I told you that's where those lead mines are and stuff. We're going to go on the original road. And look, there's another church building there. Presumably that's where Jesus gets his car MOT'd. It looks older, doesn't it? You can tell. Yeah.
No lorries coming down here now, that's for sure.
Here we go. So there's Scarthin Mill Pond. I'm going to call it that now. Scarthin Mill Pond rather than Cromford Mill Pond. There's water going off the top. So what's that doing, Phil?
This one here, look. Yeah, that's the main supply to the mill. It goes under the road there and it comes out right in the mill complex, which we'll get to when we get down there. And it travels across the road and it just pops out into the open. We can see it again down there before it plunges in again. So all these little bits and bobs of water just keep appearing and disappearing as you go along, and it's quite, you've got to try and piece together what they all are. And obviously with them being underground, you're scratching your head to work out what's going off.
Because I'll be honest, I'd always assumed in my infinite naivety that basically the Cromford Mills were powered by the River Derwent. The River Derwent went off, maybe there was a little divert, a race down into it, that powered it, done. But it's far more complex than that. So you see what I mean about the buildings around here. The post office looks exactly the same as North Street, and there's a date there on the boat in, look at that, 1772. Mate. Right, let's try and find this. I can hear water racing. What have you spotted, Phil?
Yeah, I'm just looking if we could get closer to this culvert.
You had a disappointed face, which suggests no.
It's in a pub.
Oh, it's in a pub.
I don't know.
It's a bit early for that.
I can't quite see it, but yeah, that goes under the main road now, just at the back of there, the old stable block of the pub.
It's seriously flowing, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's been really good, very clever. It's harness the power of what we could say is a fairly small brook, really, you know what I mean? All these settling ponds, look at this, it's going like the clappers.
Yeah. Amazing. So Arkwright is quite a complex guy, clever guy. But quite complex. So he's born in 1732 up in Preston. He then moves to Bolton, where he becomes a wig maker and a hairdresser. seems quite strange. He gets married, he has a child, but then his wife dies. And at that point, that seems psychologically to change him. And this obsession with building a spinning wheel becomes everything to him. So he basically rents a little cottage and gets to work. We've even got ourselves a lead mine, Phil. Let's not be distracted though.
Well, don't distract me, mate. I've already been in it.
Oh, okay. I've not done that one. Maybe that one's for another day then. Okay. So what we're going to try and find is a couple of remains of basically the water. So essentially, in that direction, through those houses, that's where that bear pit was. We looked at that. So some water's coming underground from that. There's the Greyhound pub and all the buildings built by Arkwright. The other side of that, you've got the pond we've just looked at, the mill pond. It's coming under here as well, underneath the road, and hopefully around here somewhere we should have some remains. So here we go. I had no idea this was here, mate.
Yeah.
Wow, so I would be now stood in water, basically.
Yeah.
So that's coming down. Is that coming down from the bear pit, that one?
Yeah, so this is one of the early ways of getting water across the aqueduct into the 1771 mill. Now this is the original course. It's quite hard to trace because a lot of it's been built over, but this section under the, well, it's now the A6, is still there. Unfortunately, this side there's no trace of it because it's been moved, but if you just go up there in a minute, you'll see a 1785 version that increased the flow of water, and it's a much bigger tunnel you'll be able to see if you just go up that ridge there.
Okay, before we climb up that ridge, let's have a look and see what we can see inside that tunnel. There we go. So you've got the old torch on the go.
Yeah, I've not come well equipped with torches.
No, we've not got. Wow, it's awesome though.
It goes away. I mean, this A6 now would have been a, you know, it changed over the course of the year, so it's been widened. So this would have had some, you know, some sort of extension with a bit different profiling, but I can't actually see any.
No.
Maybe it's because it's so deep they didn't have to do anything with it.
Right, here we go. I'm going to film this. Go on, Phil. Look at that. Didn't break stride, did he? I will not be the same.
That's not stable.
It's not stable. That's alright, neither am I. So, this is the newer one you've said?
Yes, mate. As you see, we can see it at the moment. I bet in a few months you wouldn't see that.
No, it'll be long gone, wouldn't it? So water was flowing. Oh, you can see. Yes, on the top.
Yeah, the reason I clicked on about this was because I went in that mine up there that you just mentioned earlier. I thought, I'm on a lead here, I could tell, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I bailed down here and thought, bloody hell, look, there it is.
Mate, you are very good at sniffing stuff out. I've got to say, it's like Columbo when it comes to stuff like this. Look at that. Mate. Oh, wow. That is long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never knew any of this was here, mate.
Yeah, it's had a reprofile there, look.
Yeah. That's amazing. Okay, so we're going to clamber over the road now, if I don't fall over, and try and find the other end of that. So we've jumped across the road. Apologies for the traffic. That's the A6, very busy road. Now the original tunnel would have come out around about here. That's all long gone, unfortunately. However, the newer tunnel, I say new, when was it, 1782?
1785.
1785, oh yeah, that's practically yesterday. So it would have come out. Oh mate, there's still water in there.
Yeah, and more to the point, that could be the other side of the tunnel. I'm not going to try and get in that, by the way.
Oh.
Can you see there's some?
Oh yeah.
You can see some kind of brickwork.
Yeah, there is some brickwork there.
Let's have a look there.
So maybe they've just kind of.
So, oh yeah, that's got. If you put your hand in there, it smells and feels like a tunnel. There's such a draft coming.
Oh,
up there.
there is. Yeah, I can feel it on my face.
I think that is the opening there. Look.
Yeah. So there it is then. Oh mate, well spotted. So then it comes out here and there's water in place.
Yeah, it's hard to remember. You know, water being here is amazing because nobody sees this.
No, I had no idea, and I'm a regular around here.
Right,
so it would have flowed around and then actually across a bridge, which unfortunately was hit by a lorry. You're saying late 90s, early noughties?
I'd say 90s late, yeah. I remember it being here and then it's gone. I didn't think at all that it was a lorry because I didn't actually know what it was for then in my non-historical mindset I used to have.
Yeah. And these here, this is the start of the mill complex, the enormous Cromford Mills. Right, so we're going to clamber out of this now and go all the way over to the other side where there was something called a goit. Phil says, apart from the Goit Valley, I've never heard the term goit before.
It is, I wouldn't say the goit, it's a goit, which is another name for a leat.
Right, okay.
So it's a goit basically, and that's what he used to power a second wheel that he put on when he extended the mill over there. So we'll go and find that water channel now.
Obviously the mill was built in 1771, but didn't stop there. It was extended various times throughout history, and eventually his son, Richard Arkwright, Junior took over as well when Arkwright Senior passed away. So loads going off and loads of different dates. So there we go. There's the mills. Now that ain't even, you know, 15% of it. Over the other side, it opens up. It's absolutely enormous. So Phil's just made a really good point. Because this is so old, you know, 1771, there's no photos. So what you're actually relying on is paintings from the time. So where does that house fit into proceedings, Phil?
It don't really, because
Right.
it came afterwards, so it's kind of got rid of evidence that we're trying to look for. We're
That's
trying
annoying.
to find out how water got from over there into the goit that used to run somewhere along this.
So this is a flow of water. So
Yeah.
through that house, we're at the other side where we were by the mill pond and all that kind of stuff. So it's coming through here.
And it powered a wheel that was perched on the end there of the extension to the mill that he put in.
Right.
He's put a brick wall there now to stop you going in the mill, but that's where it was perched. You can't see it from here, and you can't really see it from the other side. But
That's
that is the
disappointing.
location. So
Okay, so it was on the side of that building. There was
inside
a
the building,
wheel. Yeah.
This goit it was getting water coming down in this ingenious way, and it was running the mill on this side. Yeah, more power for the mill.
So back to Arkwright. He goes back to Preston, as I said earlier, and starts developing this spinning wheel. Anyway, he cracks it. So then he moves here to Cromford and goes into partnership with a guy called Jedediah Strutt, which you might have heard of as well. Very, very famous in mill building circles. And they built this place. So up there is the water that was still in situ that we saw a second ago. We were up there. Now this across here, where this car's about to come around the corner, there it goes. That's where this trough went across, and it was an iron trough that was still there. I'll try and find some photos of it because it was still there up until the early noughties. There you go. Can you see it? There's still some ironwork left, just a tiny little bit left. So the water would have flown across there and then dropped down into the mill complex, which is through there, and that's where we're going to go in a second. It looks like we can get on top of it. Here we go. So the water is up there. It flowed round here and over, and there you go. You can see there's the remains of the ironwork. Oh mate, gutted it got taken out, but there you go.
Yeah, because we could have walked across it if it was still here.
That would have been amazing. And you can just see now, look how huge this is. So as I said, 1771, so be careful coming down these stairs, he builds this. At that time he's in partnership basically with Strutt. Then in 1776 they're expanding. They build North Street where we started to walk for all the workers and stuff like that. He then basically teams up with Jessup and Outram when they're trying to build the Cromford Canal. He's got all these partnerships. Now around this time he remarries and he has 3 children. Well, only one of them makes it to adulthood. 2 out of his 3 children pass away while still children. That seems, I think, to affect him psychologically, because suddenly he falls out with everyone. He pays them off, buys them out, and basically goes solo. He starts opening mills further up into Matlock and all over the shop, basically up into Wirksworth, and he even starts opening them up in Manchester and places like that. But he's basically a one-man band now. Okay, so that massive gaff up there, that was Arkwright's gaff. That's where he eventually dies. But this place is important. So there were gates there, well there still are now, but there were other gates there that were basically the entrance gates for the workers. Now, you've got an interesting story about not being late, basically.
Well, first of all, let's just show what this is. This is the mill manager's house.
The mill manager's house.
Yeah, he probably had someone checking up the wood on time, etc. But anyway, the room,
He'd have been stood there,
Yeah,
I
he
reckon,
could have been,
watching.
yeah. But basically, when them gates were shut at 6 o'clock in the morning, you ain't saying, let me in, I'm 2 minutes late, because it would dock you a day's pay, and an extra day's pay if you're late, you just had to go back home.
And that was it.
That was the end of the story, yeah.
So, as you say, this is a strategic location to see when people are coming in late. That seems quite harsh, doesn't it? You're a minute late, so you lose that day's work, you get sent home, and you also get fined the following day's work. That does seem harsh. Now, I bet people weren't late though, to be fair, so it probably worked in that sense.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the payment, he actually paid his staff in Arkwright pounds, which is kind of crazy, because obviously you can't spend an Arkwright pound. You know, I don't think I'd be able to spend one if I tried to spend one, but that was sort of the point, you see. You could spend the Arkwright pound in Arkwright's pub and in Arkwright's shop. So actually he's paying his staff and they're basically giving him the money back. Okay, so we're in the mill complex. We've clicked our fingers. You know, here's one I made earlier, like Blue Peter. That's the other side of that bridge that was taken out by the truck in the early 2000s. So water would have been flowing into here from basically where we started at the bear pit and all that sort of stuff, coming along and powering a wheel that was here. Now that's not original, is it? That's new stonework, that, Phil?
No, because this mill were in a poor state when the Cromford Arkwright Mill Trust came, and you know, if you saw pictures of this 20 years ago, it was a mess.
Was it really?
Yeah, you got to doff your hats to them, really.
Yeah. So you've sent me prior to this an artist's impression. Oh God, I sounded common then. Artist, an artist's impression of what that looked like there, that mill wheel.
Yeah.
Because, like we said earlier, there's no photos because it's so old.
No, so yeah, it's quite a wide, old, antiquated thing, and well, that's what it was. So yeah, it doesn't look like a modernish kind of a wheel at all. You know? No.
But what we're going to do then is we're going to follow the water as it cascades down. You can just see there's Arkwright's house at the top there, massive thing, rock house that's called. This was enormous, and it was actually even bigger because where the high-vis guy is over there, that's actually the foundations of a barracks. I've seen photos of it. It burnt down in the 1960s, I think. Did it burn down?
Yeah, I think the gist was that it was struggling to get skilled workers to commute to here. You know, in them days, maybe they'd not done them road improvements that we spoke about, so we made a barracks for his workers, and presumably, you know, I don't know what kind of terms they'd got, probably docked them a bit of pay, and you know, I don't know, but yeah, they lived in situ, I suppose. That's the best way to term it, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's more water coming underneath there. I wonder if that's coming. Would that be coming from the goit? Do you think,
well,
or?
No, what we've got
here because the goit's at the top there, isn't it?
As you can see there, that's the extension. So he's put the extension on the end, and he's got another wheel. Now that's the Bonsall Brook coming out. I'm not quite sure. This flowed naturally originally before these mills were. I'm not sure if it actually came in this exactly where it is now, but or obviously in this area because it looks like they've re-engineered it for the flow, haven't they?
Yeah.
But when they put that extension on, they put a wheel on the right hand side, and we just go up there, and like you say, that was where the goit that was farting around on the other side came out, and a wheel used to sit on there, and we can perhaps come and see.
Try and see where that is, and then we'll have a look at the rest of it here, because basically Cromford Mills is now powered by water once again. You know, in 1771 it became the first water-powered mill on the planet, which is amazing. But what the Arkwright Society have done, and we'll come to it in a minute, is they've actually rebuilt like a hydro wheel there, which is now powering the mills. So that's the brick wall, stone wall, that we were the other side of when we were looking at this goit. Now, there's no remains of a mill wheel by the look of it, but you've spotted there is a little bit of rusted up ironwork there, so maybe you're saying the wheel was the other side?
Yeah, but for all we know, the reason we struggled to find the goit on the other side is it was perhaps lower than we thought, because we saw that half an arch, didn't we? And I said, well, is that too low for water to go? If you look here, it could have just come under there, actually.
Yeah, could have just gone bosh
just
through
there.
there.
Just look at the level, and a wheel somewhere sat there, and yeah, powering the extension. So he'd got the power of water that had improved through the trough that we've already highlighted, and he also had this one, so yeah.
Loads going off.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is flowing through. Obviously, we've seen the sources of water, and we're going to go and get to that hydro wheel in a second. But this is flowing out then. So we're watching this flow into the mill, power the mill, and now we're watching it basically disappear off and back into the water.
I mean, this is for a control point, isn't it? For, you know, I don't know how you can get too much water coming through these places. I don't know, but obviously it could. And one of them's a culvert going out to a little channel that runs alongside the road that comes out at Cromford Wharf, which we'll get to down there. And that one there, the larger one, goes quite deep and shoots off under the Scarthin and comes out into the Derwent.
Oh, okay. So I guess if there's heavy rain or whatever, this could get too high, bit dangerous. Right, we'll just get rid of some of it, basically. Yeah. So this is the foundations of those barracks we mentioned earlier. So that would have been, you know, you can see the photo, obviously it burnt down. You've got another lead mine. So many lead mines around here, which before Arkwright was the source of employment. Mate, everything's so old. Well, I say everything's so old. This is not old. This is brand spanking new. And actually, this is now powering. Wow, look at this. This is powering all these mill buildings. So it's still being powered by water all these years later. Amazing. Love it. Love it. Okay, where are we going now then, Phil?
Well, I just want to tell you something. You know that outlet there?
That there, yeah.
You know that the Derwent very close to us, isn't it?
Yeah.
For some reason, that does not come out in the Derwent there, which is a easy one. It goes underground and comes out about half a mile further down, way past Cromford Wharf. So I wonder why they went to the expense of having to do a cut and cover tunnel all the way down there when they could have just shot it.
Just shot it into the river.
It's strange, but we'll hopefully see that in a bit where it comes out.
Yeah, let's go and find it. Okay. Right, so where do you come out? Okay, so while we're walking down to try and find these remains of these tunnels and stuff, Richard Arkwright goes solo, as I was saying, which I think, and it is just a theory, I think is associated with the fact that he's lost 2 children, because that's going to do something to you psychologically. He then basically pies off all his mates and goes on his own. Now what he did is obviously he made a shed load of money, so he's living up in Rock House, which is just up there. I mean, it's a big old gaff, that. But he then thinks, nah, I fancy building myself a castle, basically. So Willersley Castle, which we're going to have a look at in a minute, he starts building in the sort of late 1780s. Now, it's all ready to go in 1791. He's ready to move in, and then there's a mysterious fire, which means he can't move in, obviously. So he remains in that massive gaff there, but that's where he dies. So in 1792, aged only 59, he dies in that house before he gets to move into his massive castle, which seemed like a bit of a sickener. Now, I could find zero information on how he died, on what he died of. Whether he was ill or whether he fell over and banged his head, I don't know. So that's where we're going to finish the walk. That's where Arkwright rests. There's his massive castle through there. I'll get the drone up so you can get a decent shot of that. Unbelievable. What a gaff, but unfortunately never got to live there. Now this is the original road you're saying then, Phil?
Yeah, mate, I don't know if you call it road, wagon way or byway, whatever, but this was the main way of getting through before they redeveloped all the area that we know now as Cromford Crossroads. It was a quiet backwater little lane, really, yeah. Yeah,
and so there's a picture you sent me, artist impression of what this looked like.
Well, yeah, here's one looking down this way with a couple of houses that have gone now and a couple of people trotting around on horses. And
so it would have been here. Wow.
Casual, laid back, no traffic, very different to what it is now.
Okay, so we've come out from the mill complex now. We're just on the other side, basically underneath Rock House, which is where Arkwright lived and died. So there's the mills. Now, where's this coming from? Because this is going into the Cromford Canal.
Yeah, this is the canal feed that he sent water into. Obviously, it would assist on keeping the levels up as well. I don't know whether that's its sole source, I'm not sure, but definitely.
I think they got it out the river, didn't they? The lead pump house as well.
One, yeah.
But they need more than one source, yeah.
Of course they did, yeah. So yeah, but this is just another way of getting his water out, and he supplemented the water this end of the canal, yeah. Yeah. So one comes out, goes off, I think into the river down there somewhere. We'll have a look in a minute. Another one goes off into a tunnel, which we're going to go and find, and then this one goes. So he's not wasting water even when he's done with it. No, he's doing his share, isn't he? That's for sure. But I like this here. I wonder if that's put there for a reason, because that's obviously access for a person to go in.
Got to be. Well,
this is some kind of private.
Well, Rock House is up there, so I'm wondering if that's a way to get up into Arkwright's gaff.
But he had the other one at the other end as well, didn't he? The tunnel of private.
He did, yeah.
So yeah, maybe covered at both sides of his property then. Yeah, great.
It's mad to think Richard Arkwright. I mean, I'm being sycophantic like he's a rock star, but he would have walked through that.
Yeah.
That's mad, really, to me. So what we're going to do now is just walk round past the Cromford Wharf, which I've explored before. It looks amazing from the air. Look at this footage. Oh, I love it. And we're going to try and find the other end of that tunnel, which for some reason, as Phil said, some inexplicable reason, he built underneath here when he could have just chucked water in the river. Yeah. Not sure why he did that.
Or into the canal, I guess, but no.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll have a look. There would be a reason, of course. He's not an idiot. Now that tree here, because you've got the people walking on the Cromford Canal, that tree is basically where this tunnel is, apparently. Now I'm local to here, and I explore here a lot, either making videos or just, having a nosy, basically, just because I'm nosy. But I had no idea this was here at all, so Phil's kind of dropped one on me here, which is amazing. Right, so here we go. So earlier, when we were in the mill, that big kind of hydro wheel thing that they've built, where that water was flowing out from, this is where it would emerge, and I'm with you, Phil. I don't know why you wouldn't just flow that straight out into the River Derwent, which is literally going along there, but they've brought it way away from the mill, brought it out here, and then it flows from here into the river, unless they're using it to irrigate the fields. Maybe this was farmland before. Here we go. This is dedication, this is, Phil.
Yeah, if it goes off my well, I'm not going to go that far.
Mate, it's raining. It's starting to rain quite heavy now. Yeah, be careful, mate. So we've come to have a look at Richard Arkwright's final resting place after he passed away in 1792, but we found this. So this is another outlet from the mill going out into the River Derwent, and it is flowing. It's a trickle, but it wouldn't have been, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. There you go.
So Well, this one was controlled by that sluice we saw when we were first in there, when I said it branched off.
Yeah.
That's this one, so obviously the sluice is set for not a lot of water to come out into this particular outlet.
But when it was real heavy, it would go
Yeah.
down to the one we looked at before.
Either.
Got you. So that was the last outlet. Although, to be fair, there could be loads more we've not found yet. So complex was Arkwright's mill. Amazing, proper genius. Now, where we are now is the church where he lays. It wasn't originally, when he first died, he was actually buried up in Matlock, just up the hill there. And then he was moved by his family to this church here. Now, I'm not sure if we can get in it or whether he's buried in the yard, but we'll have a look. So there's another image. So basically, there's the bridge that if you can look now on this drone footage, that's that bridge going over the Derwent. So basically, his house that he never got to live in was up on that hill there, which is just where I'm pointing. Now, interesting thing about that house, which I should have probably mentioned earlier, was actually all the land up there on that hill where Willersley Castle is, was actually owned by Florence Nightingale's dad. So much history around here. And Arkwright actually bought the land off of him to build the house that he never got to live in. What a location. I mean, I suppose it doesn't really matter when you're dead, but being buried next to the River Derwent, quite a beautiful place to rest, I guess. It's not the first time we've traipsed around in a graveyard.
Yeah, I just remember the last time we went in a graveyard, it was the great Brian Clough, wasn't it? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was Brian Clough. So we've gone from Brian Clough to Sir Richard Arkwright, which is, you know, quite a segue. There's another Arkwright there. 1948 this was. So the Arkwright family is still here, significant.
That's James Arkwright. Yeah.
That's James Arkwright, is
Yeah.
it? That's a big old plot, that one. Okay, James Arkwright. So I don't know which one's Richard then, because that's not. I don't know if this one. You'd expect his to be the grandest, wouldn't you?
Well, that one looks grand. It's the biggest pitch. I wonder if there were two in there. Does it say inscription on this side?
Oh, could well be then.
No.
Mary Esther, widow. So yeah, so that's a husband and wife. Richard doesn't appear to be here. It kind of kills the closing a bit, unless he's in there. Right, I've googled. If in doubt and all that, Arkwright is inside the church, in a family plot. Now, I don't know if it's open or not, but we'll try and we'll see. If not, we'll do our rest in peace outside. No, a padlock, which is sort of universal language for not tonight, Henry. But inside there, that's what it looks like inside then. I'll try and find a photo if I can. Well, that's disappointing, but still, what a great man. So that's us, the incredible Richard Arkwright, the incredible Cromford Mills. Amazing history. Great work mapping that out, mate.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Goodness me. As an aside as well, when Arkwright died, he died with £500,000 in money, right? And I thought, well, in 1792, I wonder how much that is. So I had a bit of a search, and how much do you reckon?
Well, it's going to be several million, but I don't know how many figures to put on that.
Estimated £96 million. That'll do, won't it? Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
See ya.